Chapter 10. And Peleg the son of Eber died in those days, in the 48th year of the life of Abram son of Terah. And all the days of Peleg were 239 years. And when the Lord had scattered the sons of men, on account of their sin at the tower, behold, they spread forth in many divisions. And all the sons of men were dispersed into the four corners of the earth. And all the families became according to its language, its land, or its city. And the sons of men built many cities according to their families, in all the places where they went, and throughout the earth where the Lord had scattered them. And some of them built cities in places from which they were afterward extirpated. And they called these cities after their own names, or the names of their children, or after their particular occurrences. And the sons of Japheth, the son of Noah, went and built themselves cities in the places where they were scattered, and they called all the cities after their names. And the sons of Japheth were divided upon the face of the earth into many divisions and languages. And these are the sons of Japheth according to their families: Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Teres. These are the children of Japheth according to their generations. And the children of Gomer according to their cities were the Phancham, who dwell in the land of Franza, by the river Franza, by the river Senah. And the children of Rephath are Bordium, who dwell in the land of Bartonia, by the river Leda, which empties its waters into the great sea Gihon, that is, Oceanus. And the children of Togarmah are 10 families, and these are the names: Buzar, Parzanak, Belgar, Elakunim, Ragabib, Tarki, Bid, Sebuk, Anol, and Tilmaz. All these spread and rested in the north and built themselves cities, and they call their cities after their own names. Those are they who abide by the rivers of Hithlah and Italak until this day. But the families of Angolia, Balgar, and Parzanak, they dwell by the great river Dubni, and the names of their cities are also according to their own names. And the children of Javan are the Javanim, who dwell in the land of Macedonia. And the children of Medier are the Oriolim, that dwell in the land of Kherson. And the children of Tubal are those that dwell in the land of Tuscnar, by the river of Pashaya. And the children of Meshach are the Shibashani, and the children of Terars are Rushash, Cushni, and Angolias. And these went and built themselves cities. Those are the cities that are situated by the sea: Jebus, the river Kurar, which empties itself into the river Tragon. And the children of Elishah are the Alminium, and they also went and built themselves cities. Those are the cities situated between the mountains of Job and Shabbathmo, and of them were the people of Lombardy, who dwell opposite the mountains of Job and Shabbathmo, and they conquered the land of Italia, and remained there until this day. And the children of Chittim are the Romim, who dwell in the valley of Canopia, by the river Tebru. And the children of Dundinim, those who dwell in the cities of the sea of Gihon, in land of Borna. These are the families of the children of Japheth according to their cities and languages, when they scattered after their tower, and they called the cities after the names and occurrences. And these are the names of all their cities, according to their families, which they built in those days after the tower. And the children of Ham were Cush, Mitzrayim, Phut, and Canaan, according to their generations and cities. All these went and built themselves cities as they found fit, places for them. And they called the cities after the names of their fathers: Cush, Mitzrayim, Phut, and Canaan. And the children of Mitzrayim are the Ludim, Anamim, Lebamim, Nachkotabim, Parutharism, Calushim, and Cathturim, 7 families. All these dwell by the river Sihar, that is the brook of Egypt, and they built themselves cities and called them after their own names. And the children of Pathros and Casloch intermarried together, and from them went forth Pelusium, Azithim, and Geraim, and Githim, and Acronium, and all 5 families. These are also built themselves cities, and they call the cities after the names of their fathers until this day. And the children of Canaan also built themselves cities, and they called the cities after names, 11 cities and others without number. And 4 men for the family of Ham went to the land of the plain. These are the names of the 4 men: Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, and Zeboim. And these men built themselves 4 cities in the land of plain, and they called the names of their cities after their own names. And they and their children and all their belongings them dwelt in those cities, and they were fruitful and multiplied greatly and dwelt peaceably. And Seir, the son of Hur, son of Hivi, son of Canaan, went and found a valley opposite of Mount Paran. And he built a city there, and he and his 7 sons and his household dwelt there. And he called the city which he built Seir, according to his name, that is the land of Seir until this day. These are the families of the children of Ham, according to their languages and cities, when they scattered to their countries after the tower. And some of the children of Shem, son of Noah, father of all the children of Eber, also went and built themselves cities in the places wherein they were scattered, and they called their cities after their names. And the sons of Shem were Elam, Ashur, Arakshbad, Lud, and Aram. And they built themselves cities and called the names of their cities after names. And Ashur, son of Shem, and his children and household went forth at that time, and very large body them, and they went to a distant land that they had found. And they met with a very extensive valley in the land that they went to, and they built themselves 4 cities, and they called them after their own names and occurrences. And these are the names of cities which their children of Ashur built: Nineveh, Resen, Kelok, Rehoboth, and the children of Ashur dwell there until this day. And the children of Aram also went and built themselves a city, and they called the name of the city Uz, after their eldest brother, and they dwelt therein. That is the land of Uz to this day. And the 2nd year after the tower, a man from the house of Ashur, whose name was Bela, went from the land of Nineveh to sojourn with his household wherever he could find a place. And they came until opposite the cities of plain against Sodom, and they dwelt there. And the men rose up and built there a small city, and called its name Bela, after his name. This is in the land of Zor until this day. And these are the families of the children of Shem, according to their language and cities, after they were scattered upon the earth after the tower. And every kingdom, city, and family of the families of the children of Noah built themselves many cities after this. And they established governments in all their cities, in order to be regulated by their orders. So did all the families of the children of Noah forever. Chapter 11. And Nimrod, son of Cush, was still in the land of Shinar, and he reigned over it and dwelt there. And he built cities in the land of Shinar. And these are the names of the 4 cities which he built. And he called the names after the occurrences that happened to them in the building of the tower. And he called the first Babel, saying, because the Lord there confounded the language of the whole earth. And the name of the second he called Erech, because from there God dispersed them. And the third he called Echt, saying, there was a great battle at that palace. And the fourth he called Canaan, because his princes and mighty men were consumed there. And they vexed the Lord. They rebelled and transgressed against him. And when Nimrod had built these cities in the land of Shinar, he placed them in the remainder of his people, his princes, and his mighty men that were left in his kingdom. And Nimrod dwelt in Babel, and there he renewed his reign over the rest of his subjects. And he reigned securely, and the subjects and princes of Nimrod called his name Amraphel, saying that at the tower his princes and men fell through his means. And notwithstanding this, Nimrod did not return to the Lord, and he continued in wickedness and teaching wickedness to the sons of men. And Mardon, his son, was worse than his father, and continued to add to the abomination of his father. And he caused the sons of men to sin. Therefore it is said, from the wicked go forth wickedness. And at that time there was a war between the families of children of Ham, as they were dwelling in the cities which they had built. And Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, went away from the families of the children of Ham, and he fought with them and subdued them, and went to the 5 cities of the plain, and fought against them and subdued them, and they were under his control. And they served him 12 years, and they gave him yearly tax. At that time died Nahor, son of Serug, in the 49th year of his life of Abram, son of Terah. And in the 50th year of the life of Abram, son of Terah, Abram came forth from the house of Noah, and went to his father's house. And Abram knew the Lord, and went in his ways and instruction, and the Lord his God was with him. And Terah his father was in those days still captain of the host of King Nimrod, and he still followed strange gods. And Abram came to his father's house, and saw 12 gods standing there in their temples. And the anger of Abram was kindled when he saw these images in his father's house. And Abram said, as the Lord liveth, these images shall not remain in my father's house. So shall the Lord who created me do unto me, if in 3 days' time I do not break them all. And Abram went from there, and his anger burned within him. And Abram hastened and went from forth through his chamber to his father's outer court. And he found his father sitting in the court, and all his servants with him. And Abram came and sat before him. And Abram asked his father, saying, Father. Tell me, where is God who created heaven and earth and all the sons of men upon the earth, and who created you and me? And Terah answered his son Abram and said, Behold, those who created us are all with us in this house. And Abram said to his father, My lord, shew them to me, I pray thee. And Terah brought Abram into the chamber of the inner court, and Abram saw. And behold, the whole room was full of gods of wood and stone, 12 great images, and others less than they were without number. And Terah said to his son, Behold, these are they which made all thou seest upon the earth, and which created me, and you, and all mankind. And Terah bowed down to his gods. And he then went away from them, and Abram his son went away with them. And when Abram had gone from them, he went to his mother and sat before her, and said to his mother, Behold, my father has shown me those who made heaven and earth, and all the sons of men. Now, therefore, hasten and fetch a kid from the flock, and make it of savory meat, that I may bring it to my father's gods, as an offering for them to eat. Perhaps I may thereby become acceptable to them. And his mother did so, and she fetched the kid, and made savory meat thereof, and brought it to Abram. And Abram took the savory meat from his mother, and brought it before his father's gods. And he drew nigh to them, that they might eat, and Terah his father did not know of it. And Abram saw on the day when he was sitting amongst them, that they had no voice, no hearing, no motion, and not one of them can stretch forth his hand to eat. And Abram mocked them, and said, Surely the savory meat that I prepared has not pleased them. Or perhaps it was too little for them, and for that reason they could not eat. Therefore tomorrow I'll prepare fresh savory meat, better and more plentiful than this, in order that I may see a result. And it was on the next day that Abram directed his mother concerning the savory meat. And his mother rose and fetched 3 fine kids from the flock, and she made of them some excellent savory meat, such as her own son was fond of. And she gave it to her son Abram, and Terah his father did not know of it. And Abram took the savory meat from his mother, and brought it before his father's gods into the chamber. And he came nigh unto them, and that they might eat. And he placed it before them. And Abram sat before them all day, thinking perhaps they might eat. And Abram viewed them, and behold, they had neither voice nor hearing, nor did one of them stretch forth his hand to eat the meat. And in the evening of that day in the house of Abram was clothed the Spirit of God. And he called out and said, Woe unto my father in this wicked generation, whose hearts are inclined to vanity, who serve these idols of wood and stone, which can neither eat, smell, hear, nor speak, who have mouths without speech, eyes without sight, ears without hearing, hands without feeling, and legs which cannot move. Like them are those that made them, and that trust in them. And when Abram saw these things, his anger was kindled against his father. And he hastened and took a hatchet in his hand, and came into the chamber of the gods, and he broke all of his father's gods. And when he had done breaking the images, he placed a hatchet in the hand of the great God, which was there before them, and he went out. And Terah his father came home, for he had heard at the door the sound of striking of the hatchet. So Terah came into the house to know what this is about. And Terah, having heard the noise of the hatchet in the room of images, ran to the room to the images, and he met Abram going out. And Terah entered the room and found all the idols fallen down and broken, and a hatchet in the hand of the largest, which was not broken. And the savory meat which Abram his son had made was still before them. And when Terah saw this, his anger was greatly kindled, and he hastened and went from the room to Abram. And he found Abram his son still sitting in the house. And he said to him, What is this work thou hast done to my gods? And Abram answered Terah his father, and he said, Not so, my lord, for I brought savory meat before them. And when I came nigh to them with the meat that they might eat, they all at once stretched forth their hands to eat before the great one had put forth his hand to eat. And the large ones saw their works that they did before him, and his anger was violently kindled against them. And he went and took the hatchet that was in the house, and came to them, and broke them all. And behold, the hatchet is yet in his hands, as thou seest. And Terah's anger was kindled against his son Abram when he spoke this. And Terah said to Abram his son in his anger, What is this tale that thou hast told? Thou speakest lies to me. Is there in these gods spirit, soul, or power to do all that hast told me? Are they not wood and stone, and have I not myself made them? And canst thou speak such lies, saying that this large God that was with them smote them? It is thou that didst place the hatchet in his hands, and then sayest he smote them all. And Abram answered his father and said to him, And how canst thou then serve these idols, in whom there is no power to do anything? Can these idols in which thou truest deliver thee? Can they hear thy prayers when thou callest upon them? Can they deliver thee from the hands of thy enemies? Or will they fight thy battles for thee against thy enemies, that thou shouldst serve wood and stone, which can neither speak or hear? And now surely it is not good for thee, nor for the sons of men that are connected with thee, to do these things. Are you so silly or foolish or so short of understanding that you will serve wood and stone, and do this after this manner? And forget the Lord God who made heaven and earth, and who created you in the heaven, and thereby bring a great evil upon your souls in this matter, by serving wood and stone? Did not our fathers in the days of old sin this matter, and the Lord God of the universe brought the waters of flood upon them and destroyed the whole earth? And how can you continue to do this and serve gods of wood and stone, who cannot hear or speak or deliver you from oppression, thereby bringing down the anger of the God of the universe upon you? Now therefore, my father, refrain from this, and bring not evil upon thy soul and the souls of thy household. And Abram hasted and sprang from before his father, and took the hatchet from his father's largest idol, with which Abram broke it and ran away. And Terah, seeing all that Abram had done, hastened to go from his house. And he went to the king, and he came before the king Nimrod. And he stood before him, and he bowed down to the king. And the king said, What dost thou want? And he said, I beseech thee, my lord, to hear me. Now 50 years back a child was born to me. And thus he has done to my gods, and thus he has spoken. And now therefore, my lord and king, send for him that he may come before thee, and judge him according to the law, that we may be delivered from his evil. And the king sent 3 men of his servants, and they went and brought Abram before the king. And Nimrod and all his princes and servants were that day sitting before him, and Terah sat also before him. And the king said to Abram, What is this that hast done to thy father and to his gods? And Abram answered the king in the words that he spoke to his father. And he said, The large God that was with them in the house did to them what thou hast heard. And the king said to Abram, Have thy power to speak and eat and do as thou hast said? And Abram answered the king, saying, And if there be no power in them, why dost thou serve them, and cause the sons of men to err through thy follies? Dost thou imagine that they can deliver thee, or do anything small or great, that thou should even serve them? And why wilt thou not sense the God of the whole universe, who created thee, and whose power is it to kill and keep alive? O foolish, simple, and ignorant king, woe unto thee forever! I thought thou wouldst teach thy servants the upright way, but thou hast not done this, but hast filled the whole earth with the sins and the sins of thy people who have followed their ways. Dost thou not know, and hast thou not heard, that this evil which thou doest, our ancestors sinned therein the days of old, and the eternal God brought the waters of the flood upon them, and destroyed them all? And they also destroyed the whole earth on their account. And wilt thou thy people rise up now and do like unto this work, in order to bring down the anger of the Lord God of the universe, and to bring evil upon thee and the whole earth? Now therefore put away this evil deed which thou doest, and serve the God of the universe, as thy soul is in his hands, and then it will be well with thee. And if thy wicked heart will not hearken to my words, to cause thee to forsake thy evil ways, and to serve the eternal God, then wilt thou die in shame in the latter days, though thy people and all who are connected with thee, hearing thy words, are walking in thy evil ways. And when Abram had ceased speaking before the king and princes, Abram lifted up his eyes to the heavens, and said, The Lord seeth all the wicked, and he will judge them. Chapter 12. And when the kings heard the words of Abram, he ordered him to be put into prison. And Abram was 10 days in prison. And at the end of those days, the king ordered that all the kings, princes, and governors of different provinces, and all the sages should come before him. And there they sat before him, and Abram was still in the house of confinement. And the king said to the princes and sages, Have you heard what Abram the son of Terah has done to his father? Thus has he done to him, and I ordered him to be brought before me, and thus he has spoken. His heart did not misgive me, neither did he stir in my presence. And behold, now he is confined in the prison. And therefore decide what judgment is due to this man who reviled the king, who spoke and did all the things that you heard. And they all answered the king, saying, The man who revileth the king should be hanged upon a tree. But having done all the things that he said, and having despised our gods, he must therefore be burned to death, for this is the law in this matter. And if it pleases the king to do this, let him order his servants to kindle fire both night and day in thy brick furnace, and then we will cast this man into it. And the king did so, and he commanded his servants that they should prepare fire for 3 days and 3 nights in the king's furnace, that is in Kasdim. And the king ordered them to take Abram from prison and bring him to be burned. And all the king's servants, princes, lords, governors, and judges, and all the inhabitants of the land, about 900,000 men, stood opposite the furnace to see Abram. And all the women and little ones crowded around upon the roofs and towers to see what was doing with Abram. And they all stood together at a distance. And there was not a man left that did not come on that day to behold the scene. And when Abram was come, the conjurers of the king and the sages saw Abram, and they cried out to the king, saying, Our sovereign lord, surely this is the man whom we know to have been the child at whose birth the great star swallowed the 4 stars, which we declared to the king now 50 years since. And behold, now his father has also transgressed thy commands, and mocked thee by bringing thee another child which thou didst kill. And when the king heard their words, he was exceedingly wroth, and he ordered Terah to be brought before him. And the king said, Hast thou heard what the conjurers have spoken? Now tell me truly, how didst thou? If thou shalt speak the truth, thou shalt be acquitted. And seeing that the king's anger was much kindled, Terah said to the king, My lord and king, thou hast heard the truth, and what the sages have spoken is right. And the king said, How couldst thou do these things? To transgress my orders, and to give me a child that thou didst not beget, and to take value for him. And Terah answered my king, Because my tender feelings were excited for my son at that time. And I took a son from my handmaiden, and I brought him to the king. And the king said, Who advised you to do this? Tell me, do not hide aught from me, and then thou shalt not die. And Terah was greatly terrified in the king's presence, and he said to the king, It was Haran, my eldest son, who advised me to this. And Haran was in those days that Abram was born, 32 years old. But Haran did not advise his father to do anything. For Terah said this to the king in order to deliver his soul from the king. For he feared greatly, and the king said to Terah, Haran, thy son, who advised thee to do this, shall die through fire with Abram. For the sentence of death is upon him for having rebelled against the king's desire in doing this thing. And Haran at that time felt inclined to follow the ways of Abram, but he kept it within himself. And Haran said in his heart, Behold, now the king has seized Abram on account of these things which Abram did, and it shall come to pass. And if Abram prevail over the king, I will follow him. But if the king prevail, I will go after the king. And when Terah had spoken this to the king concerning Haran his son, the king ordered Haran to be seized with Abram. And they brought them forth, Abram and Haran his brother, to cast him into the fire. And all the inhabitants of the land, and the king's servants and princes, and all the women and little ones were there, standing the day over them. And the king's servants took Abram and his brother, and they stripped them of all their clothes, excepting their lower garment, which were upon them. And they bound their hands and feet with linen cords. And the servant of the king lifted them up, and cast them into the furnace. And the Lord loved Abram, and he had compassion over him. And the Lord came down and delivered Abram from the fire, and he was not burned. But all the cords with which they were bound him were burned, but Abram remained and walked about in the fire. And Haran died when they had cast him into the fire, and he was burned to ashes, for his heart was not perfect with the Lord. And those men who cast him into the fire, the flames of the fire spread over them, and they were burned, and 12 men of them died. And Abram walked in the midst of the fire 3 days and 3 nights, and all the servants of the king saw him walking in the fire. And they came and told the king, saying, Behold, we have seen Abram walking about in the midst of the fire, and even the lower garments which are upon him are not burned, but the cord with which he was bound is burned. And when the king heard their words, his heart fainted, and he would not believe them. So he sent other faithful princes to see this matter, and they went and saw it and told it to the king. And the king rose to go and see it, and he saw Abram walking to and fro in the midst of the fire, and he saw Haran's body burned, and the king wondered greatly. And the king ordered Abram to be taken out of the fire. And his servants approached to take him out, and they could not, for the fire was round about, and the flame was ascending toward them from the furnace. And the king's servants fled from it. And the king rebuked them, saying, Make haste and bring Abram out of the fire, that you shall not die. And the servants of the king again approached to bring Abram out, and the flames came upon them and burned them their faces, so they 8 of them died. And when the king saw that his servants could not approach the fire lest they be burned, the king called to Abram, O servant of the God who is in heaven, go forth from amidst the fire, and come hither before me. And Abram hearkened to the voice of the king, and he went forth from the fire, and came and stood before the king. And when Abram came out, the king and all his servants saw Abram coming before the king, with his lower garments upon him, for they were not burned, but the cord with which he was bound was burned. And the king said to Abram, How is it that thou wast not burned in the fire? And Abram said to the king, The God of heaven and earth, in whom I trust, and who has all in his power, he delivered me from the fire into which thou didst cast me. And Haran, the brother of Abram, was burned to ashes, and they sought for his body, and they found it consumed. And Haran was 82 years old when he died in the fire of Kasdim. And the king, princes, and inhabitants of the land, seeing that Abram was delivered from the fire, they came and bowed down before Abram. And Abram said to them, Do not bow down to me, but bow down to the God of the world who made you, and serve him, and go in his ways, for it is he who delivered you from out of the fire. And it is he who created the souls and spirits of all men, and formed man in his mother's womb, and brought him forth into the world. And it is he who will deliver those who trust in him from all pain. And this thing seemed very wonderful in the eyes of the king and princes, and that Abram was saved from the fire, that Haran was burned. And the kings gave Abram many presents, and he gave him his 2 head servants from the king's houses. The name of one was Oni, the name of the other is Eliezer. And all the kings and princes and servants gave Abram many gifts of silver and gold and pearl. And the king and his princes sent him away, and he went in peace. And Abram went forth from the king in peace, and many of the king's servants followed him, and about 300 men joined him. And Abram returned on that day and went to his father's house, he and his men that followed him. And Abram served the Lord his God all the days of his life, and he walked in his ways and followed his law. And from that day forward, Abram inclined the hearts of the sons of men to serve the Lord. And at that time Nahor and Abram took unto themselves wives, the daughters of their brothers Haran. The wife of Nahor was Milcah, and the name of Abram's wife was Sarai. And Sarai, wife of Abram, was barren, and had no offspring in those days. And at the expiration of 2 years from Abram's going out of the fire, that is in the 52nd year of his life, behold, King Nimrod sat in Babel upon the throne. And the king fell asleep and dreamed that he was standing with his troops and hosts in the valley opposite the king's furnace. And he lifted up his eyes and saw a man in the likeness of Abram coming forth from the furnace. And that he came and stood before the king with his drawn sword, and then sprang to the king with his sword, when the king fled from the man, for he was afraid. And while he was running, the man threw an egg upon the king's head, and the egg became a great river. And the king dreamed that all his troops sank in that river and died. And the king took flight from 3 men who were before him and escaped. And the king looked at these men, and they were clothed in princely dresses and the garments of kings, and had the appearance and majesty of kings. And while they were running, the river again turned to an egg before the king. And there came forth from the egg a young bird, which came before the king, and flew at his head, and plucked out his eyes. And the king was grieved at the sight, and he woke out of his sleep, and his spirit was agitated, and he felt in great terror. And in the morning the king rose from his couch in fear, and he ordered all the wise men and magicians to come before him. And when the king related his dream to them, and as a wise servant of the king, whose name was Anuki, answered the king, saying, This is nothing else but the evil of Abram, and his seed which will spring up against my lord and the king in the latter days. And behold, the day will come when Abram and his seed and the children of his household will war with my king, and will smite all the king's hosts and his troops. And as to what thou hast said concerning 3 men, which thou didst see like unto myself, and which did escape, this means that only thou will escape with 3 kings from the kings of the earth, who will be with thee in battle. And that which thou sawest of the river, which turned to an egg as at first, and the young bird plucking out thine eyes, this means nothing else but the seed of Abram, which will slay the king in the latter days. This is my king's dream, and this is its interpretation. And the dream is true, and the interpretation which thou servant has given thee is right. Now before my king, surely thou knowest that in this now 52 years since thy sages saw this at the birth of Abram. And if my king will suffer Abram to live in the earth, it will be to the injury of my lord and king. For all the days that Abram liveth, neither thou nor thy kingdom will be established. For this was known formerly at his birth. And why will not my king slay him, that his evil may be kept from thee in latter days? And Nimrod hearkened to the voice of Anuki, and he sent some of his servants in secret to go and seize Abram, and bring him before the king to suffer death. And Eliezer, Abram's servant, whom the king had given him, was at that time in the presence of the king, and he heard what Anuki had advised the king, and what the king had said to cause Abram's death. And Eliezer said to Abram, Hasten, rise up and save thy soul, that thou mayest not die through the hands of the king. For thus did he see in a dream concerning thee, and thus did Anuki interpret it, and thus also did Anuki advise the king concerning you. And Abram hearkened the voice of Eliezer, and Abram hastened and ran for safety to the house of Noah, and his son Shem, and he concealed himself there and found a place of safety. And the king's servants came to Abram's house to seek him, but they could not find him. And they searched throughout the country, and he was not to be found. And they went and searched in every direction, and he was still not to be found. And when the king's servants could not find Abram, they returned to the king. But the king's anger against Abram was stilled, and they did not find him. And the king drove from his mind this matter concerning Abram. And Abram was concealed in Noah's house for 1 month, until the king had forgotten this matter. But Abram was still afraid of the king. And Terah came to see Abram his son secretly in the house of Noah. And Terah was very great in the eyes of the king. And Abram said to his father, Dost thou not know that the king thinketh to slay me, and to annihilate my name from the earth by the advice of his wicked counselors? Now whom hast thou here, and what dost thou in this land? Arise, let us go together to the land of Canaan, that we may be delivered from his hand. Lest thou perish also through him in the latter days. Dost thou not know, or hast thou not heard, that it is not through love that Nimrod giveth thee all his honor? But it is only for his benefit that he bestoweth all this good upon thee. And if he do unto thee greater good than this, surely these are only vanities of the world, for wealth and riches cannot avail in the day of wrath and anger. Now therefore hearken to my voice, and let us arise and go to the land of Canaan, out of the reach of injury from Nimrod. And serve thou the Lord who created thee in the earth, and it will be well with thee. And cast away all the vain things which thou pursuest. And Abram ceased to speak, when Noah and his son Shem answered Terah, saying, True is the word which Abram hath said unto thee. And Terah hearkened to the voice of his son Abram, and Terah did all that Abraham said. And from this was from the Lord, and the king should not cause Abram's death.